Hello and welcome, Nadine and Eugene. Thanks so much for joining me today to talk a little bit about your COVID experience, not having COVID, but how you've managed to stay healthy throughout this pandemic. Nadine, tell me just a little bit about you and your beautiful family.
I'm in the health care field. I do home health care. My husband's in the health field. He works at the hospital, our local hospital. And of course, I do a lot with my son, and he has autism, so I'm very active with him and his sports and activities. But that's about it for me.
That's a lot. That's fantastic. So you're a very health conscious family. You probably felt like as soon as the pandemic hit, you were in on getting a lot of good information about what you needed to do to keep your family safe. What were some of those first memories that you have of hearing about this really frightening kind of disease? And what were some of those first steps, and how did you help to think about your son, Eugene? And maybe you were a little concerned because he needed to hear the information from you. How did you present all of that information?
At first, it was a little stressful for us. My husband working directly in the hospital, being around it every day, and thinking about him with the possibility of going to school, me taking care of my mom, who was much older. It was very stressful listening to everything that was going on in the news about getting it, and it was really confusing. So on whether we should get it or not get it, we ended up not doing school for him, ended up doing homeschool for him for the first year that the pandemic started, because I just didn't want to get the shot, being confused. But my husband did. So there was a lot of dilemma there, because we talked. He felt like we should have got it as a family, but in the meantime, I still had some reservations. So me and Eugene didn't get it right away, but my husband had got it because he felt like, being in the hospital, he needed to get it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty wise. It's interesting. So you're what we call the sandwich generation, right? Taking care of your parents and also taking care of your son. Eugene, how old are you?
13.
13. Are you in middle school?
Yes.
Yes. Do you like school? Maybe some days, not always. Hey, I was in school once too. I remember I didn't always like school. Some days were good, some days not so good. But tell me a little bit, what do you like best at school? Do you have a favorite subject?
Gym.
Great. Do you play a sport? One in particular that you like?
Bowling.
Bowling. Hey, that's
and I
pretty
also
cool.
do swimming and baseball.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. I love to swim. That would be my favorite. I'm not a good bowler, but
Actually, I'm going bowling today.
Fantastic. Maybe someday I'll come up to Delaware and you'll teach me how to be a better bowler. But tell me, from your perspective, Eugene, when you couldn't be at school with all of your friends because of COVID-19, and at the beginning we didn't have vaccines, did you miss your friends?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you think about that when it came time for you and mom and dad to talk about the vaccine and whether or not you should get it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you feel better because you have it now?
Yes.
So getting the shot was maybe a good thing for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you did get it, how did you feel? Like, did you feel sick at all? Did you get really tired? Did your arm hurt?
Well, I did feel kind of scared to get the shot, but then I felt better about it because the news.
So you did eventually get it. What changed your mind? Or was it somebody who talked to you that said, you know, we think it's time now. We feel pretty sure that it's safe and it's important?
It was mom.
Well, moms know a lot, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now you're back at school, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So you're there in person, and because of getting the shot, you're now able to do the things you love again. That's really important. Do you have some advice for other kids your age who maybe are still unsure about getting the vaccine?
To not be afraid of the vaccine.
That's very, very good advice. So, Mom, what advice do you have? Like, did you talk with Eugene's doctors at all? I know you are a healthcare professional, so is your husband. Just walk us through a little bit about some of the things that went through your mind and who helped you to figure everything out and make the best decision.
So, like I said, me and my husband had a few conversations about it, and like I said, he was always for it. I talked to every one of our doctors, and you know, of course, the doctors were always for it. We had conversations with our friends, and I have some friends who were totally against it, and I have some friends who were for it. I have some friends who were kind of still, much like me, who were stuck in the middle until their kids ended up with COVID. And now they are definitely going to get their kids, or some of them are going to get their kids COVID shots now since their kids have had COVID. But the ultimate decision for me is one day I just had to really do a pros and cons thing. We lost our daughter a couple years ago over something that we had no control over. And I had to really put myself in that perspective. Okay, this is something that I can kind of control. And I didn't want to see myself sitting in ICU again, saying to myself that I could have prevented this. And that ultimately was my decision for getting it, is I had to really sit down and say, you know what, this is not worth having another child in the hospital over something that I could possibly prevent. And so we were in the car. I was thinking about it in my head, and we went right to the pharmacy right then and there before I had time to talk myself out of it again.
Good for you. I first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. That's tragic. And I can certainly see how that really did impact your decision, because you're right, we have control over this.
Mhm.
The more we do listen to the medical professionals, the doctors, the researchers, the scientists who have worked so diligently on these vaccines and really have worked to keep us all safe and healthy, have said that, you know, this really can save lives. It can save the lives of people who are getting COVID. It can save pregnant women from potentially losing that unborn baby. Why take that risk? The risk of death from COVID is much higher than the risk of anything else. So good for you. I'm sure that that must have been very emotional for you and your family, and just, wow, what a story. That really does touch my heart. And, you know, as a fellow mom, I say thank you for thinking about your other child, and to know that you want to keep them as safe as you possibly can. And that means the whole family having
Yep.
the vaccine. Do you have any other words or thoughts that you want to share with other families?
I would just say to families, you know, life is precious, and you know, we only live once, and you know, it's just a shot.
Right? That's what I keep thinking. You're so right. It's just a shot. I'm sure that Eugene and your other child back in the day had all of the requisite shots that they needed to go to school.
Yep.
And perhaps the flu shot on given years as that was necessary. So why should this one be any different? And in fact,
Yep.
if it's going to be different, it's because this disease is even more serious.
Yes.
And so many have been taken from us unnecessarily. So thank you for doing all that you do. And Eugene, my wish for you is that you stay really healthy when it comes time maybe to get the booster shot, if you all feel like that can also really just, give you a little bit more power to stay healthy. And keep going out there, Eugene. Go to school, go be with your friends, go bowling, go swimming, play ball, do all the great things that you enjoy doing, and know that you are in the best care with your mom and your dad and your doctors and everybody looking out for you. I want to thank you both for your time today and for going on camera with me to share your story, because your story is really important. And I hope that it will have an impact and really help other people to see that you all got the vaccine, you're safe and sound. It went well for you both, the rest of your family, and it can keep you safe, keep you alive, and have lots of other happiness in your life moving forward. So thank you for taking the time today to talk with us. We appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Instead of question and answer, maybe we just chat a little bit. Maybe Elliot will just, kind of chime in a little by nodding his head or showing us a picture. I think, really what we wanted to capture today was just to kind of, and really we can make this a family thing. It doesn't have to be just Elliot, but what we really wanted to capture was as a family and having Elliot in school. And I understand you have another son as well, right?
Yes.
Who's older?
Yes.
Yes. What thoughts went through your mind with your children being at school and COVID? How did you make decisions about vaccine? How did that all work for you? Those are kind of the things that we'd like to know just a little bit about. So, for me, it would be nice to know how Elliot's life and your other son's life as well. Your other son's name is
Ben. Yeah.
Ben.
We may get to
remember that.
see him. Ben is also home from school. They're both kind of decompressing now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how did life change for them, when COVID hit and you were in your routine with school and classes and things that maybe Elliot and Ben do after school? What happened when COVID hit? What happened to your whole family?
Right. So Elliot was in kind of a rough situation in that he was just finishing up his last year of elementary school, and his teacher resigned just a few days before all the schools shut down. And so Elliot ended up having a really rough time in that elementary school just ended. And so when we asked him a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about this, if he was happy or sad when school ended, he said sad. He wrote sad. Right? Yeah, that was sad. Well, why don't you type something for Daddy to draw? Or if you want to type something, if you want to talk about it, that's fine too. Yeah, I know. We really, not only was Zoom not a possibility, the Zoom school. I know.
We're kind of demonstrating that right now.
We're kind of demonstrating it right now.
Hey, this is real life, right?
I'll tell you what. Okay, I'll tell you what.
What?
We will do it, but it will be louder. Okay, it will be louder if we do that. Okay.
You sure?
Well.
It's going to be too loud.
Okay, well, we'll see how loud it is.
Okay,
We'll
cool.
now be competing with videos, but yeah, and so I felt like we moved into a place where, from our perspective, Elliot was no longer being educated. Instead, we were all sort of pretending that he was being educated.
Right.
because whatever was set up for him to do his schoolwork was not working. It also meant that, like he never saw any of the kids from his elementary school again.
Did that make him sad?
Yeah. And in fact, when he said what he missed when school ended was, school bus, right? School bus, movies, right? Pool. You missed pool. Friends, right? Friend John and friend Corey. Yeah. Games and grandma, right? Grandma lives in a different state, and his other Nana lives in England. So it just, and so it was a period that was really, really rough.
I can only imagine. And, so many students have gone through this and had to really deal with having to give up friends and school and all of the routine. We know for many children, I'm sure Elliot's no different, that daily routine of that school bus coming and knowing what you're going to do all day is so important. And to have to live without that must have been very, very challenging for your family. So fast forward a little bit, eventually we got word that there were vaccines available, right? That could help us think about getting back to the life that we want to live. Tell me a little bit about your family, how you made some decisions about the vaccine. What did it mean to you? What research did you talk with your doctors? Just walk me through that a little bit.
Sure. We talked to our doctors, and we were following this very closely. Of course, we were very excited about the vaccine coming out, and we were basically, Bob and I decided the first opportunity that we could have to have the vaccine, we would take it, because for caregivers with 2 children with intellectual developmental disabilities, having one parent even just sick is tough, because it really takes both of us working as a team. And so we realized that if we got very seriously ill, if our kids got seriously ill, we would be in a situation where we would really not be able to cope with it very well. And so and so the first opportunity I got to get the vaccine, I got it. So did Bob. And we waited for the Pfizer to be approved. It was approved first for our older son. And so as soon as that happened, we got him in. And for our children, because they've had a lot of really rough medical situations, getting them into a medical situation is a rough deal. They're not happy about it. They need, it's often going to be a situation. I mean, we talked about the vaccine and why we wanted them to have it. And Bob is very good at making up social stories, and because he can draw, and so we talked about it, but still actually going and doing it was very rough for the guys. But we just felt like it was incredibly important. And sometimes I feel like people with disabilities or people with children with disabilities are being given kind of different advice about it. Sometimes people are like, well, there's something, your child is different. And so, aren't you going to be worried that it's going to be this,
which plants more fears in your head that maybe don't need to be there.
Right. They don't need to be there, because, the reality of it is it's much more dangerous for people with disabilities, and they're much more likely to get sicker if they get COVID.
Right. So how about, did Elliot or Ben have, a fear of a needle? Was that difficult? Were you able to find a vaccine site that had more sensitivity for kids with disabilities?
Fortunately, for Elliot, we didn't, the site was not, the second part of it was better for both of them.
Yeah.
The first one, I don't think they were, because our kids aren't worried about needles. They're worried about Band-Aids. And they're so frightened that
you don't like the feel of it
on them, that they're that's the main fear. And so sometimes it's and so you have to convince people not to put the Band-Aid on, and not even to out, and really the Band-Aid just
Or the
needs to
stickers.
disappear. Or the stickers. Yeah. I mean, oh, no. Right. You don't like the stickers. Yeah.
No.
And so I think that Elliot got his done at the health department.
Yes.
And they were better prepared the second time we came.
Yes.
Yes, right. Second time should be better.
Yeah. So
Yeah. There were, I think, members of the National Guard
yeah.
there, and it took 3 of us to hold Elliot down.
Which we
So-
don't want to say because we don't want to be coercive, but when it comes down to the last moment, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it got easier for the second time.
The second one was
Second
fine.
time was much better.
Yeah, for both of them.
What about reactions after getting the shot? Were they sore? Were there any, fevers or anything else? No. Very lucky.
Ben was very, very tired afterwards.
Yes.
But
Elliot, not so much.
Elliot just kind of kept trucking on.
Great. Well, that's good. That's really good news that that's the way that went. Wonderful. So, I don't know if Elliot wants to answer for himself, but I just love to know, like, what does he get to do now? Because he's been vaccinated. Does he get to see friends? Elliot, do you get to go on that school bus again?
Elliot, you get to go to school?
Yes.
Yeah. And you get to see Michelle,
You
your
get to see Michelle,
babysitter.
yeah.
And you got to see grandma, right?
Yeah.
Wow, you got to see grandma. That's awesome. Okay. And Elliot, you're back in school every day now?
Do you go to school? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Amazing. What a difference a few months can make, right?
Yeah.
What advice, if any, do you have for other families that are like yours? If they are watching this video, they're looking, one of the things we have learned over the past year of being advocates for vaccines is that people want to see examples of other people who look like them, whether that's your skin color, your nationality, or other people, people with disabilities want to see that people with disabilities of all types receive the vaccine and they're fine. And in fact, as you pointed out, Ellen, they're safer and they feel better because we know that some of those outcomes of COVID itself would be so much worse than even of the vaccine. What advice do you have for families who may still be struggling with a decision about vaccine?
Well, I think that because I have friends who have made different decisions about this, and I know that it's very hard when you especially you've had a lot of medical stuff go on with your kids, and so you are. I think my friends who feel that way have been hesitant because they are just so worried that they're going to cause a problem. They and I think that there are a couple of things. One is talk to people who have had the vaccine, people you trust and aren't going to make you feel stupid for having made, and aren't going to be insulting to you also for not getting the vaccine yet. That there are all sorts of good reasons why people are worried because they've had really serious things go down with their kids. But talk to friends who have been vaccinated and see how their kids did, because Elliot and Ben have a lot of medical issues, right? They've got a lot of things that but basically the vaccine isn't going to work so differently for children with disabilities as it will for anybody else. It's going to keep them safer.
Mm-hmm. That's like very good advice. Go to those you trust, have those conversations, ask the right questions. And at the end of the day, you have to make the decision that feels right for your family. Right. I know you have a wonderful relationship with Jen and the DD Council. Have they been helpful to you throughout this process as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, having the conversation with Elliot was incredibly helpful because what we ended up doing was, having this, having this really nice communication thing where we sat down with the big paper and markers and, I think Elliot really, really liked it. Since then, we've been doing more of that. And so it made me think, oh yeah, there's more communication that we can,
It's wonderful.
yeah.
Hey, if any silver linings come out of this very dark cloud, that's certainly one of them. Better communication. Elliot really learning more how to, share with you guys and with others what's important to him, what makes him happy and successful. And those are great skills to learn for life.
Yeah. And also another bonus, Elliot has started cooking. So Elliot has started making
Wonderful.
M&M pancakes, which are a specialty of his, right?
Delicious. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Elliot, that's one of my favorite things. I love M&M pancakes. How about chocolate chips? How do you feel about those?
Do you like chocolate
Do you like
chips?
chocolate chips?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Man after my own heart. I love it. And Elliot, the hair, fabulous. Way
Yeah,
ahead
that's
of
from
you.
Dad. Yeah.
That's from Dad. I can see that. Definitely. Dark hair. All right. I don't want to keep you guys. I want you to go enjoy your evening. But thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk with me.